Kaizer Chiefs play Stellenbosch, and this is one of the fixtures whereby they have played and they have quite been good. And this is not to say it's going to be an easy fixture. So let's look at how the coaches will set up in this game to make sure that Kaizer Chiefs move along in the League Cup. In goal, obviously, it's Brendan Peterson. However, before we continue, I would love to see Fia Krentuari start this game because, he's there, he's part of a team, he's an international goalkeeper. Peterson is a goalkeeper for league games, he's also a goalkeeper for the CAF competitions. So, I think, personally, I would play Untwari in this game. In fact, I would play Untwari in all the cup competitions and maybe leave the CAF Confederations Cup. But nakhona I could play him some home games, especially if we have an advantage. Because, you should keep your squad happy. And also, people will say this might be a decisive feature. But I think we shouldn't underestimate the importance of keeping your squad happy. Right? Which moves us to the right back. And I don't think that anyone can argue at this point that Dylan Solomons deserves to be a starter ahead of Ofrosla. And I've been saying this, that Solomons deserves to start games because he gives it his all. And now he's not even just better in terms of at least he's putting in the effort, but also the things that he's doing in the roles that he's given. Like I talked 2 weeks back about when we were playing Kabuskop and the fact that, who's this guy? Marco was struggling to play as a half 10, right? Like inverting and basically becoming in the half space. Almost looks like he's a number 10 behind the striker. He does that against Kapuskop. He took a shot from there, then Lillepo ended up scoring. But if you go and watch the cutback and check, Solomon is doing that. He keeps on finding himself in those positions because he's asked to do that. So the fact that he's engaging a new role playing for a club just tells you that he's adapting pretty well. And center back pairing, Miguel and Quinica, nothing much to say. They have developed an understanding, but I know Dudley will come back and people will start saying, "Oh, Miguel should be taken out." That's my response because I'm trying to think why do we say we wanna change combinations of some players, but the combination is working. But if some players are playing well and are taken out to complain, you know. We move on to the next thing, which is the left back, and that is Bradley Cross. By the way, if you notice something in the way that Kaizer Chiefs are playing, Cross does not even look like a left back at times. He just looks like a left center back. Because when Chiefs are attacking, he doesn't go forward unless a team like Amazulu are parking the pass, and then we need numbers forward. Sometimes you'll see him sporadically going forward, but not that much. It's like once in 5 attacks that you see him going up. But for the most part, he's just gonna stay with the flat three. And what he does very well, he does the simple things. He does them simply, and you can't falter that. You can't hate on that. Which brings us to the center mid partnership, starting with Ox Mthethwa, who Cedric Kaze has said is an unsung hero in what Kaizer Chiefs have been doing so far. And honestly, if you are someone who still thinks Mthethwa is not giving us anything because he loses balls, I have just a response to you. Yeah, that's my entire response to you, because I think we are pushing agendas to have the players that we like continue playing. Of course, everyone has a preference. Of course, everyone has favorite players at Chiefs, right? Everyone does. There are players that you look at and you think of and you're like, I would really love to see this player start every game. But at the same time, if we're being realistic, what has Mthethwa been doing for us, and which other player can cover the amount of ground, can be as physical as he is in making sure that our defense is protected? You cannot name one, right? You can say, oh, Thabo Cele plays better than Ox on the ball. What about when we don't have the ball? And then people run and say, oh, Patmpilo, what are you defending against Stellenbosch? Let's not pretend that just because Kaizer Chiefs are a good team and they attack and all of that stuff, that they don't have moments where they would have to defend. Because they do. So what will you do when that moment whereby you have to defend comes along, you're going to crack, right? And you're going to be exposed. In fact, not crack, you're just going to be exposed. And in you being exposed with your ball playing footballers, what are they going to do for you? Because if we can open up SofaScore right now or whatever and check the average position of Kaizer Chiefs, it will be ranging in some matches 55, 60 in some, 65 in some, like against Amazulu. But that means Chiefs were in position for how long? They would have been in position of the ball 65% of the time. Like Amazulu, let's make an example. When they were playing against Amazulu, the ball position for Chiefs was 67%. But there was still 33% to Amazulu. So in that 33%, it doesn't matter whether you can control all the ball. You're still going to lose the ball at some point. How are you going to recover the ball if your team is just catered to let's attack, let's keep the ball? I know people like quoting the best way to defend is to attack, but how are you going to? You can't attack 100% of the time. Which brings us to Khosi Ngcobo, who has been very good. He has been very good for Chiefs. But what I don't like is people taking away credit from Umthetwa in the name of praising Khosi Ngcobo. Khosi Ngcobo is brilliant in controlling the tempo of the game, in playing progressive passes, in just keeping the team playing. But let's not just say, oh, Umthetwa is better because he's playing with Ngcobo. He was still good when he played with Mart last season. He was still good when he played with Ucele. These are just two good individual players, two good at different aspects of the game. One can control the game, one can disrupt the opponent from playing. Let's give them both credit without discrediting one. And the fact that Khosi Ngcobo has come back after all these seasons where he wasn't doing well and he was struggling with injury and gaining weight, but now he's back and he's doing it. Like Happy Mashiane, Sabelo Hatebe, unfortunately, Bona, they ended up not making it. But he's the one player from that time when we were struggling and we're like, this is the future. We looked at and he's still around. So may you continue with that mentality, because some players could have been discouraged, especially with the fans saying, oh, Ngcobo is being treated unfairly. He still had to work in some aspects of his game. And he did. So that's credit to him, right? Which brings us to the next player on the list, and that is Mduduzi Shabalala, who scored last Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? Wednesday. And then he did this and he did this sign. Now, I don't know whether he was talking to the opponents or he was directing it at the fans. Either way, it really doesn't matter. If he was directing it at fans, people are saying, oh, this boy should learn, he should look at Ranga. Ranga tried this and it didn't work. So stop bullying the players, because he's a person, right? He's a human being. You cannot keep on abusing these players and expect that they won't say anything in return. Yeah, but it's his job to score. Yeah, but it's also a responsibility of a functioning adult to be responsible and be careful with what they're saying out loud. But that's not like everyone does it on every day. We abuse these players because they get paid. And most of you guys who are watching this video have jobs, but you do not tolerate being disrespected by your bosses just because it's your job. So just because you have a job to do, that justifies that the people that you are working for should disrespect you. It doesn't. So why does it justify fans' actions against these players? Oh, we buy tickets. Don't buy it then. Don't go to the stadium. Stay at home. Don't watch Chiefs. You cannot justify being a horrible person just because you pay 80 rands to buy a ticket and then pay 200 on transport. We also go to stadiums, but we will never justify abusing players just because we go to the stadium. It cannot be tolerated. If Mduduzi retaliate, now we're saying he should be careful. You should be careful with provoking him. I know, I'm getting frustrated. But we move to the next player, and that is Uklodi Lilepo. Another player was abused. You see now the theme of the video. How many players are we going to talk about who have been abused? Klodi Lilepo starts in that role as an inverted forward, because with Solomons they get to rotate even more. I like that dynamic. That is why, by the way, Munyan, even when he gets fit, he might get sidelined a bit by Solomons, because Solomon's and who's this and wow. And Lilepo, I said it last season in one of like in a couple of videos last season that see, I was talking about Frost at that time that the dynamic between Lilepo and Solomons is very good because sometimes there's Lilepo this side, but they rotate easy. But with Monyane when he plays, there's nothing wrong with him. He's better with exploiting the half spaces. But Solomon seems to be even better interchanging the two things. I'm not saying he's a better player. I'm saying so far, based on performance, Solomons has also done what Munyane didn't do. So there might be that. They might share that position because they are both very good players. Which brings us to Pule Modi, who had a good game. Right? He had a very good game in the previous match against Amazulu. He assisted, could have scored. We know what happened. We're not going to dwell on that. But he's getting better and better. I said it again in the last post-match analysis video. I think we played a couple scope. There is a confidence player, and that sometimes is a problem. But if he has coaches like the ones we have right now, even Nabi last season, even this season, because it's Nabi who started playing him, even though he wasn't that great, they allow him to grow into the season, which for some people it's like, Ebana, there are other players who can play better. Just play Mfundo as a right winger, play Liliap on the left wing. But then you compare the work rate of Mfundo Villagas and the work rate of Pule Modi. Pule Modi plays almost as a left wing back. Liliap won't do that for you. He can track back, but playing as a left wing back, that like demands really hard work for you to not just track the right back when he attacks, but to go and almost be like a left back. So left wing back, that's what it does. That is why it's going to be very difficult for Chiefs to drop him, because against Titus, you cannot expect Liliapo to drop all the way and do that. He can go assist, but it's only Modi who really is that good in doing that. Which brings us to the last player, and there is Uta Silva. If you notice, this is the same starting lineup I made for the previous game, but I kept Da Silva again, despite the fact that Mayo started the previous game. I don't think Mayo will start. Well, I don't want Mayo to start, not because he's bad, but I think Mayo should come in as a right winger. Because if you play a team and they drop, which Stellenbosch didn't do in the last game, they just pressed us. But if they do drop, like if you look at Stellenbosch, right? If you look at Stellenbosch in their past few games, what has been happening to them? They've been losing a lot of matches, like a lot of matches. And against Chippa United, if you just look at the stats, they had 60% ball position and they had 1 shot on target. Imagine that. 11 shots, 1 shot on target with 60% ball position. Where is this going? It's going to affect that their tactics seem to not be working that much in playing the ball and being the offensive team. But they had a system whereby they set and they hit on counters. And that used to work for them. So I'm wondering if they will just think in this game, you know what, it's do or die. Let's do the safe thing. We've lost to some ridiculous teams that we shouldn't have lost. They lost to Richards Bay. They lost to Amazulu. They lost 3-0 in the final on extra time granted. And they're not even sitting well in the league. They're 14th. That's not looking good. So there are a lot of changes that could happen, and the safety first mechanism might be their idea. Or maybe not. But Silva playing is because I think he makes better movements than Umayo. I think Mayo is better as a right winger. I said it when he was signed. You can check that video out. And I'm not saying how he shouldn't start because he took someone's goal. No, it has nothing to do with that. But what do you guys think? Do let me know down on the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, remember, equals Alpelumoy.